stand as one, united in solidarity, in calling an end to violence against women. Thank you to our amazing students who feel so passionately about being forces for positive change in our community. And to our important guests, Deputy Jess Pershard, Constable Karen Shenton-Stone, and Chief of Police Robin Smith, who will be speaking to you today. Ashling was a young woman starting out in her life. Ashling was a sister, a daughter, a friend and teacher. She had dreams and plans and hopes just like each one of you. We are here to remember Ashling and to honour her life, a life that was cut drastically short because a man attacked and killed her while she was only out for a run at 4 p.m. in the day. We've come together today as a college and as a community because we want change. Women continue to pay for being women with their lives. Women live in fear, and it may not be all the time or extreme, but it's there. It's there when we walk home late from that university lecture. It's there when we take that later bus home in the evening. It's there perhaps when we leave a friend's house as darkness falls, or when the street looks a little too empty. Women are experiencing violence at the hands of men all the time and everywhere. Not because of anything they are or are not doing. We are experiencing violence because we simply exist. And enough is enough. We are done with changing our behaviour to try to keep ourselves safe. How many more times does this need to happen? We stand here in memory of Ashling, but I also want you to reflect on and remember all the women who have lost their lives at the hands of men. All the women who currently experience domestic violence. All the women who have been attacked, sexually harassed, or had their drinks spiked. I think enough is enough. Let Ashling's death not be in vain. May something good come from this tragedy. And there will be change. Each and every one of you present here on the terrace today is proof of that. We have our government listening, our police service is listening, and Ashling is listening. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Ashling Murphy's family and her friends in Ireland. I now want to invite our Year 12 students to recite a poem in Ashling's memory. So if Catherine, Ruby, Louise, Maddie, Catherine and Eleanor could come up please, that would be great. Thank you guys.
Down by the canal, her teaching all done, an ordinary thing, she went for a run. 2 decades, 3 years, bright as the sun, life was just starting, she went for a run.
Down by the canal, the headlines now stun, another woman's life, she went for a run. Raise our boys better, call our friends out, don't let them whistle, don't let them shout. Sisters, friends, mothers, aunts, they keep on dying, at random by chance. Her name was Ashling, not long ago 21, now asleep forever, she went for a run.
Down by the canal, she will teach everyone, a reminder eternal, she went for a run. Rest in peace, Ashling.
Thank you girls, that was beautiful, but also so poignant to think that she was only out for a run. Now we will have our students who will light a candle, and each student will represent their year group to honour Ashling's memory. If we could have our students come up please. So Amy, Freya, Katiki, Chloe, Amal, Lily and Athena. Thank you. That was beautiful music as well, and they are traditional Irish ballads that Ashling herself would have been familiar with and would have played. So that was really quite beautiful. Thank you, Anna and Rhea, playing their violins for us today. If we could have Abby please to come up and lay the GAA Irish jersey with the number 23 on it. It symbolises Irish heritage and our national sport, but it also marks the age of Ashling, which just really makes it all the more heartbreaking. Thank you, Abby. We'd now like to have our speakers, Deputy Jess Pershard, Constable Karen Stone, and our Chief of Police, Robin Smith. Thank you. If you'd like to say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name is Jess Pershard. I'm a States member, and I was invited here today to speak out on the issue of violence against women. 23 years old, a primary school teacher, a musician, a daughter. It was 4 p.m, it was sunny. It was a normal day. She went for a jog. Ashling Murphy was murdered in broad daylight. This depraved, senseless and barbaric act of violence has triggered outcry across Ireland over the safety of women and girls, and has been picked up by global news outlets across Europe and America. Why? Because there was nowhere to hide. She wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. She wasn't walking home alone at night. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't wearing a skirt that was too short. None of the sexist narratives used in the past to victim blame can be applied here. Ashling Murphy went for a jog at 4 o'clock in a frequented place on a sunny afternoon, and she was violently attacked and killed. There is nowhere to hide. This was a shameless display of hatred towards women. Society. For years, you've taught girls and women to curtail their behaviour to avoid being attacked. You've put the responsibility on us to stop bigger, stronger men from attacking us. And we've been forced to comply. We don't walk home alone at night. We cover our drinks so we don't get spiked. We don't get into unbooked cabs. We carry our keys as a weapon. We modify our behaviour all the time. We self-deprecate. We apologise, because doing nothing else sometimes feels dangerous. But when we reach the point where we can't leave our homes in the middle of a sunny afternoon, when we can't get home safely as part of going between work and home, what are we supposed to do? Enough is enough. Boys are not born violent. Many grow up and are never violent. But a small minority do grow up and be violent sometimes, and some will direct that violence towards women. If you are a man who has an impulse to dominate women, if you can't control yourself, if you stomp around the home, throwing things, punching walls, swearing and shouting at the women in your household, seek help. Because we know that that behaviour eventually escalates. We know that. We know that most violence against women happens in the home. We know that most violence against women is committed by an intimate partner or family member. We know it's incredibly difficult to gather evidence to convict someone of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and rape. We know that prosecution rates are abysmal. We know that one of the most common risk factors leading to violence is witnessing violence as a child. And of course, not everyone who witnesses violence becomes violent themselves. But we do have enough evidence to show that if you're a man who grew up in a violent household, who had a violent role model, you are at a greater risk of mimicking that behaviour in your own future relationships. The most effective way to stop violence against women is prevention. Along the way, that requires education and rehabilitation. We're not spending nearly enough time talking about prevention. We're not spending nearly enough money on preventative measures. We're not talking enough about men who would never commit such crimes and their role in this journey. If you are a man who has healthy relationships, who would never dream of hurting another human being, you are part of the solution and you have an active role to play. We need to teach our sons about the power they have and the responsibility that comes with it. We need to teach men who commit violence against women that this deep-seated hatred is abusive and immoral and an infringement on every woman's right to be safe. We need to stop teaching boys that women are there to serve them, and that does start in the home. If you are a parent of boys, you have a responsibility to have these conversations with your sons. As a society, we have a responsibility to reinforce and shape those lessons. As teachers, we have a responsibility to protect the children in our care and teach them about empathy, their rights, and their responsibilities as citizens. As politicians, we have a responsibility to ensure that the law is robust. And as members of a community, we must come together, men and women alike, to put an end to the insidious and entrenched sexism that, in this extreme case, escalated into taking the life of a 23-year-old primary school teacher as she jogged in the afternoon sun.
Good afternoon. I would like first to extend my thanks to Jersey College of Girls for inviting me to speak today and to stand in solidarity with you to remember Ashling Murphy. Like all of you, I wish we did not have to gather here today in the shadow of another senseless murder, another terrifying example of the violence against women that continues to infect our society. For Ashling to have been taken from this world in such horrifying circumstances on an ordinary afternoon run only serves to reinforce this. Today we are asked to think of the rich, wonderful life she would otherwise have been continuing to live had she not been murdered in this brutal, senseless attack. In Jersey, we like to say we are different, that we don't need to fear many of these problems. Sadly, I stand here in 2022 and remain unconvinced. Indeed, perhaps JCG is the wrong venue for this. Perhaps we should have gathered at Victoria College, De La Salle College, Holier or Highlands. It is not our sole responsibility as women to mourn those lost to misogynistic abuse and violence. I hope we do not forget that our vigil is part of a shared action that everyone across society should partake in, a reflection on justice and a call to take action and build a better world. In 2021, 64% of all reported victims of domestic crimes in Jersey were against women. In 2020, it was 65%. In 2019, it was 65%. In 2018, it was 67%. In 2021 alone, there were 27 reported cases of sexual offences against women in Jersey. Despite the many victories women have secured over the past century alone, we still have such a long way to go before we reach a genuinely equal society of mutual respect and safety. In December 2021, I lodged an amendment to the government plan that has provided the funding for a task force to be created to improve women's safety in this island and gather evidence and data on instances of violence against women to inform this group. That such a body did not already exist was, to me, a mistake that needed to be rectified. I mention this today because I intend to watch the development and work of this task force, and if it falls short or identifies a severe underreporting of statistics of issues such as drink spiking, as many islanders have suggested to me, then it will quickly become clear that we need to push for more. This year, on Wednesday 22nd of June, every islander over the age of 16 is going to have the opportunity to cast a vote detailing who they want to represent them in the next States Assembly. Elections should be the time when our collective voice as an island should be at its loudest. So I urge you not to let this opportunity go to waste. Once the ballots have been counted, the elected representatives will have 4 years to legislate, develop and debate policy. The next few months will be critical in determining the platform of the next government and what ideas will come of it. As a result of this, I'm going to urge you to take action, get involved, get registered, get to transform this island for the better, be it by pressuring candidates, forming civic action and campaigning groups, drafting manifestos and policy commitments for candidates to sign. Apply pressure to everyone who stands and continue to apply that pressure to those campaigning on their behalf. Talk to those around you and to your friends and neighbours and bring them on side. If you have an idea that you think can help, share it, distribute it, recognise its potential. If you stand and work together, there's no way they can stop you. This is not about me or any other states member or any mandate anyone may seek. It's about you. Nobody, no matter how big their mandate or how far gone they are in their views, can shut you down. I want you to know that you are the people who can make a difference. You can stand up, be counted, and say enough is really enough. No more violence, no more abuse. We do not live to be pushed around and live in fear of bigotry or prejudice. If democracy and civic action in Jersey in 2022 is to stand for anything, it should stand for an equal and just island that knows and understands the criminal and structural injustices committed against its inhabitants and works to overcome it. But when we overcome those who stand in the way of a better world. The renowned academic, feminist and social activist Bell Hooks, who sadly died last month on the 15th of December, once wrote, "Feminism is the struggle to end sexist oppression. Its aim is not to benefit solely any specific group of women, any particular race or class of women. It does not privilege women over men. It has the power to transform in a meaningful way all our lives." In tandem to this, the Australian philosopher Kate Mann writes in her book entitled How Male Privilege Hurts Women, a book and whose predecessor, Down Girl, The Logic of Misogyny, I'd recommend to all, that the unequal distribution of social goods in our society creates, in her words, inequalities that range from a woman not receiving adequate care for her pain, to her not being able to take up traditionally male positions of power, to her not being granted her rightful authority to speak about subjects in which she is expert. 2022 is an opportunity to make real change, to take risks, and to make the island a better place to live. It needs to be women-led and community-led. It needs our honorary and community police to be fully involved. It needs community organisations and charities including Jersey Women's Refuge and Jersey Action Against Rape. And it needs to offer women across the island the respect, the dignity and the safe spaces needed to give testimony and contribute to a safer, better island. Perhaps we need to understand the potential that social reform can bring. Perhaps we need to remember the power not just the States Assembly, but ordinary civic life has to benefit the island's culture and social conscience. We saw how the public debates on assisted dying and climate change were changed by the citizens' jury and assembly that followed. and I feel this potential can be harnessed to create real opportunities to have full, open discussions on finally recognising the severity of misogyny and using the tools we need to overcome it. I firmly believe that if there are community-driven opportunities born in solidarity with each other to drive forward equality in Jersey, then we, together, are going to go for them and do our best to bring this island along. I will conclude with another from Bell Hooks. To be truly free, we must choose beyond simply surviving adversity. We must dare to create lives of sustained, optimal well-being and joy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. I'm Robin Smith. I am the Chief of Police, and I am here to speak out against violence against women and girls. Today, an incredibly sad event, and increasingly more sad events, as we've seen in recent months. The death and murder of Sarah Everard, which for someone with 30 plus years service is easily the lowest point in my entire career. And here we are again to remember Ashling Murphy. No speeches from me, no facts, no stats, not today. I'm not going to start talking about the things that we've been doing that have already been referenced by others. It doesn't feel like that's the right thing for today. Just some key messages, and maybe just a short story. I care deeply, not just as the Chief of Police, but also as a man. I know every day my officers and staff also care deeply. We have the right not only to be safe, but also for you to feel safe. And I see that as one of my top priorities. You know, when new staff arrive, I ask them to do three key things. I say our job is to catch criminals, to get there quickly when you need us, and also to protect the vulnerable. But we protect best when we work together, when we listen, and when we learn. And as Deputy Perchard said, the best thing we do when we protect is to prevent. Changing culture, changing the way we act, particularly against violence against women and girls. A very brief, short story. Many, many years ago now, myself and my team were jubilant that we had arrested someone for a particularly serious crime. And that person was convicted and they went to prison. We wrote to the lady that was the victim of that crime, and she wrote me back a letter which I really wish I kept. It was with beautiful handwriting on a very small page, and she said, "Dear Mr. Smith, thank you for telling me that this man had been arrested." And then she wrote, "But I'd much rather it never happened in the first place." So prevention is the key for the future. Let's see where we can go in a positive way from today. And thanks again for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our speakers, such powerful words, and I think one thing is clear, that we are all here in solidarity to call an end to violence against women. In further thinking about Ashling Murphy, I would like if Mrs. Moss could come up and read Christina Rossetti's Remember. I think it's very moving and I think you'll enjoy it.
Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I half turn to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me. You understand it will be late to counsel then or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad.
Thank you, Mrs. Moss. We'll now end our ceremony, our vigil, with Isla, who's going to release a balloon in honour of Ashling's memory to sort of symbolise her spirit and our thoughts of her. Ashling's name in Irish means dream or vision, and I think Ashling would want all of you to follow your dreams, and our vision is to end violence against women. And I thank you all for coming together today and standing in solidarity with us. If we could have Isla.